Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a live reaction and live review, because we don't do player ratings anymore, of Chelsea 3, Liverpool 1. We've beaten the newly crowned Premier League champions. We had to give them a guard of honour. They had to give us 3 points. And honestly, I'll bloody take it. You know, if it means we win the game, I'll give everyone a guard of honour. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. I am buzzing. It's a weird one because it's not like I'm completely shocked that we won this game, because Liverpool, you know, sealing the league title last year, maybe a bit on the piss up, a bit on the party, not taking the game quite as seriously, rotating their team a little bit. But still, the last 3 and a bit or whatever years at Chelsea have proven to me, don't get your hopes up. So I didn't get my hopes up. But thankfully, even though I didn't get my hopes up, they, well, made me a fantastic, happy Sunday. Ferrari's terrible, so we can focus on Chelsea being absolutely brilliant for once. So that is just absolutely beautiful. And to make things even better, I am joined once again by Mr. Ollie J. Carpenter. Thank you very much, Ollie, for joining me. I mean, I'm not sure how you felt going into the game. I think we all kind of felt that there was a chance that we could win this. But like I say, the last 3 years have proven to us that don't hope too much. It's usually just makes you just be miserable after. But here we are. My God, that went well, didn't it?
Yeah, way better than I think anyone could have expected. Hello, Lars. Hello, chat. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you all again. It's nice to be back. Nice to be talking about Chelsea. And you know what? When I first accepted coming onto this stream, I thought we'd be having a therapy session. I thought we'd be having a moan about the game today. You know, but you know what? We had an absolutely phenomenal performance. I thought everyone, more or less, apart from maybe 1 or 2, were actually very, very good today. I thought everyone turned up, everyone tried hard, everyone fought for each other, played with each other. I thought the manager got it spot on. Thought the players were doing the right things. Yeah, really, really good result today. Do you know what? You're right, because you sort of think, well, Liverpool were on the beach a little bit, but I still think they probably wanted to get to 90 points. I think they still want to like push for and win and get as high up as they can. Yeah, they've probably been on the piss all week, but do you know what? Last season or in seasons gone by, we might not have even beaten them after they'd been on the piss for a week. So you know what? This is a good step in the right direction. And do you know what as well? It's the first time in ages I can remember us winning a big game with a big performance. You know, that wasn't like Man United or Spurs, who, let's be honest, have proven this season that they're not on the level. So, you know, of sort of those big teams, you know, your Liverpools, your Man Cities, your Arsenals, this was the first game in, got to be absolutely ages, where I feel like we've both got the performance and the result.
Bro, I've got a stat for you. Great. I've got a stat for you. Until today, we had only 1 win in 26 games against the top 5, excluding Spurs. So the 4 others, but still including Man United. And that was that 4-3 win in the last second against Man United last year. It was the one and only win in 26 against those teams. So, yes, they've been on the piss. But also, I want to say, Mo Salah is Muslim. He doesn't drink. So what's his excuse? You know what I mean? He still couldn't control the football. By the way, just quickly, and you know, I don't want to sit here just slander Mo Salah, but I've never seen a Ballon d'Or contender have that many bad touches in a game in my life. So that was shocking. From that.
Salah is the best worst player ever, because you watch him and you're like, how does this guy have 30 goals this season? And you're like, he just does it. I don't know how. His output's amazing. He's incredible, really. But yeah, not good enough today. Certainly not.
Absolutely. And Karan, as much as he's saying not to get ahead, you're not getting ahead. That's right on topic. Cucurella's got Salah figured. There was one moment where someone got past Cucurella, and that wasn't even Salah. That was Conor Bradley. So there you go. Mo Salah absolutely in the pocket of Marco Cucurella today, and I'm loving it. And by the way, not just Cucurella. Madueke putting a shift in the first half. Sancho putting in a shift when he was coming on. Also, Levi Colwill push helping a lot from left centre back to you know, defend their right wing essentially. Mate, today just really came up Millhouse. Like, honestly, I'm really, really happy. I wanna go to our lineup, because you know there's a couple of things that people always question. There's a couple of things that people always moan about. And in this case, it was Captain Reece James not being selected for this very game. Now, in hindsight, it obviously worked out. But it was arguably even more shocking that he wasn't even the first sub that came on for Lavia. That was Malagusto chosen over Reece James, which was interesting. But at the end of the day, I want the manager to make the best decision for the team. And I think as of right now, Reece James doesn't make the best team. And that's not a thing, okay, this is the end of the world and Reece James can never play again. This just means Reece James has spent 2 years of the last 3 years out injured, like combined. And obviously he's not going to be at his very best. Give the man a preseason if he can stay fit. And look where he is next season. And then if it's still not quite there next season, then we can think about it summer 26. What do we do from here? But I think for now, I have absolutely no problem with this. What more can I want than being able to bring Reece James off the bench to see out a game? You know, of course, I want Reece James to be our main guy and everything. But who the flip can do that? Bringing Reece James on to see on a game. You know, we used to do that with Jonathan. The lineup that we turn up with, I mean, Lucas says lineup was 100% spot on. It was exactly the same team that started against Everton, wasn't it? Or was Tosin in that team over someone?
No, I'm pretty sure it was the same 11 actually. I think it was the first time Maresca hadn't rotated in like 20 something games. Like, you know, he's very much a tinker. He likes to rotate. So to see him put out the exact same side again for 2 games in a row, it was a bit of a surprise in a sense. But do you know what? It's I think it's a symptom of having Lavia back. I think having Lavia back makes us instantly a much more solid team, a much better team, transitioning the ball through midfield. Caicedo plays that sort of right back sort of DM role so well. And when Lavia is there, you know, sort of beating the press and sort of just being impossible to get the ball off of, it means we can cycle the ball much nicer. Like we're able to get the ball out to the wingers much quicker today because Lavia was playing. You know, Lavia, you know, Palmer can play a little further up. Enzo plays a little bit further up when Lavia's there. You know, they can turn and go. They can release. It's an extra runner. They can release both Noni and Neto and Sancho when he came on later. And our wingers got a lot of joy today, a lot of the time. So I think Lavia, maybe he's the missing piece of the puzzle, and he was great today as well. Really good performance from him.
He was brilliant. I think Romeo Lavia will be someone that we'll talk about in depth in a little bit. I don't want to just glance over it now and then not get back to it later. Luca says, I haven't fact-checked it, but I'm just going to take your word for it, Luca. He says, first time the same lineup back-to-back since November. Now, obviously, Conference League comes into this, but we had Conference League this past week as well, and a couple of the players that started today also started that game. Like, didn't Madueke start? I think so. So there you go. Madueke started Thursday and today, and a couple of others as well. Yeah, my God. Romeo Lavia is ridiculous. I mean, honestly, we might as well talk about it now. I'm not sure if I have a picture ready. I'll go and try to find one as soon as I can. Marquino earlier said, keeping Lavia healthy is the key. Lavia and Karan says, Lavia lifts the midfield up so much. If we want to sign someone, sign a goddamn medical team, a good medical team, who can monitor and keep Lavia fit. Lavia has 2 eyes at the back of his head. There are not many players better than him when it comes to beating the press and resisting pressure from behind. He's a bit of a joke. The kid has been here for almost 2 seasons now and has still not played a full 90 for us. But still, the few games we've seen him play, you're like, oh my God, when he's not there, we're absolutely screwed. And when he is there, we're absolutely amazing. My God, that his pass to Palmer. Now, the movement by Palmer, by the way, was also absolutely phenomenal. But that blind breaking pass by Lavia that sets up the first goal in the 4th minute, that did it. I mean, that did it. Now, obviously, you can argue because we scored so early, we then sat off them more than maybe would have done otherwise, and maybe would have actually been in the first half a bit more on the front foot had we not gone up. But my God, I'll bloody take it. Obviously, I know we conceded that one, but we conceded one after making it 2. And that is a huge change to what usually happens. So
yeah, when we get pegged back and then, you know, we might get beaten in the end. Yeah, I thought the game management today from the players was good. It seemed like we there were moments that we knew that Liverpool were going to have the ball and they were going to have a lot more possession, and we did a really good job at sort of stifling that as best as we could, and then getting our own sort of sustained levels of pressure throughout the game. It was quite I think on a low, I'm not the biggest fan of Maresca, as you probably know, Loz. I'm not his biggest detractor either. But I think he outcoached Slot today.
Klopp, yeah.
Yeah, Klopp as well.
Yeah, and Klopp. I still wouldn't be surprised if Slot gets all his tactical information from Klopp on the phone. Nah, I'm joking. But yeah, no, absolutely. I do actually agree with that. I think Slot... no, I'm saying the name's wrong. But Maresca did everything right today. Like, you know, I don't want to, because we won 3-1 against Liverpool today, I almost don't want to spend the time talking about negatives, but I don't want to
Don't
when
want
I
to
say
gloss it
negatives,
over,
I
though.
don't mean negatives about the performance. I mean, what really frustrated me today was the fans. We were 1-0 up against Liverpool. They always cry how it's because we're not winning. It's because we're not playing well. They all ask for like play managers like Jose Mourinho back and, Carlo Ancelotti transition football. And then we play exactly that. And we're 1-0 up, and not a single soul of these lot got their mouth open. Like, it was ridiculous. Now, to be fair, mates of ours did tell us Matthew Harden was quite loud. So I don't know, maybe Sky just hate us and they just try to, turn out the pitch side microphones, turn them off by the Matthew Harden and turn them up to max by their away end. But all I heard on TV was the Liverpool away end, and that frustrated me. Like, we were winning. It's not like it was drawing and we were getting beat or whatever. Like, come on. It's a big game. We're finally getting a big win. Turn up, man. But enough about that. I don't want to get stuck on the negatives. But Romeo Lavia, how special is he, bro? Like, I know we joke about it, but the fact that he still hasn't played 90 minutes for us, but then when he does play, still looks the way he does. And look at this today. He also had 100% passing accuracy today, by the way, which is a bit wild in a game like this. And some of those passes, it's not like he was doing a Jorginho passing it sideways and backwards all game. He was, like I say, that line breaking pass to Palmer that set up our first goal. 2 out of 2 tackles as well, 4 out of 7 ground duels. I mean, at 21 and still not having played a full game for us, like, he's had one season in his life, essentially. He's had that one season at Southampton, and he's just this good. Like, imagine how good he'd be if he didn't miss the last 2 years, essentially. Do you know what I mean?
I know, that's good. That's a nice thought, but also kind of depressing at the same time. He's a freak, basically. That's what it feels like to me. He's absolutely ridiculous at such a young age. Doesn't have much experience really at all. And he really stood out in that Southampton side season before last, and now he's standing out now whenever he plays for us. I think he's taken some adjustments, certainly physically. The injuries have been a big problem for him. But whenever he plays for us, my God, he just looks like he glides with the ball. Like he turns like there is no gravity. Like the way, the way he can pass the ball and ping the ball around. He's making sort of 20, 30-yard passes, line breaking passes as well. He knows how to drive with the ball. He knows how to beat a man. He's got really good awareness. He knows when someone's right behind him. Can spin away from challenges, and he's got a good tackle on him as well. We really miss him when he's not around, and I think it's evident. We found solutions this season that have been good enough, and even when he's been injured and barely played all season, he comes back into the team, and we instantly look much better. And again, like you say, it's a Liverpool team on the piss, but yeah, I don't think we beat them today without Lavia.
Exactly. Maybe, but I don't think we play as well, if that makes sense. But I mean, you touched on something earlier in terms of how we just moved the ball quicker, got the ball to the wingers better. Now, obviously, part of that is obviously that we played a team like Liverpool who don't just park the bus and wait for us to make a mistake, try to steal the ball and then counter. They actually want to play themselves. I mean, if I quickly head over to the stats, they had 65% possession. We only had 35, but we had 2.91 XG and they had 1.17. You know what I mean? So this is, again, I almost have to go back to my criticism of the fans where I'm like, this is what you asked for. Now the manager does it and you still don't give him any credit. So, yeah, I mean, 65%. Do I like giving the opponent 65% possession? Is this also why sometimes the fans are a bit frustrated with Maresca? It's like, clearly, or sometimes we do better at these transition games, even if he says we're not quite good enough at it. But the thing is, we didn't make this a crazy transition game of us going all out and them going all out. We just scored an early goal and then played a sensible game. And I think really us playing a sensible game and it working out is so nice to see. It's
so valuable, bro. Like seeing a game out like that is a really, really valuable piece of experience for every single one of those players. Because what have they experienced, a lot of them, since they come in, getting battered left and right by the big teams. And so it was a really professional performance where everyone pulled their weight and played their role, and and really worked for each other and got the win. It's a really, really important game. This in more ways than one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, David makes a very, very good point. He says it's not only one player. It's not only having Lavia in the team. He says having Lavia, Enzo, and Caicedo in the middle, like having all of them. Now, obviously, Enzo playing more advanced than the other two, but having all three of them is maybe partly also the game changer. Maybe it's not just Lavia, but I mean, those three are bloody looking good. I mean, Enzo Fernandez scored the goal. Caicedo won the penalty at the end, and Lavia is the guy we're all talking about. So, as much as we've criticized a lot of the signings we have made, those three, aside from Lavia's injury record, are the three signings, alongside a few others, where you actually it worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. Even my little brother's in the chat. Shout out you, bro. Chalobah and Colwell, massive performance today. Yes, massive performance. We will get to those because they deserve the mention as well. Yeah, I'm not going to mention your name because people are going to absolutely kill me for that. Apart from Jackson, what a game. Yeah, it was what a game. We'll talk about Jackson as well. He did look off, like Lucas says. We will talk about that, like I say. Now, Ollie, when you see the stats like this, does that surprise you? Quite so little possession, but also quite so much in XG and 17 shots, 7 on target compared to their only 2. Are supposedly having 5 big chances.
Maybe, but this was always going to be a game that was a bit more open. I think this game is it's not always a shootout, but the game always flows well. Liverpool want to attack us. We're, in my opinion, like you say, I know Maresca thinks that we're not as much of a transitional team, but I think we are more of a counter-attacking side, especially with the personnel we have. I think they play with it a bit better. So it lends itself a little bit better to these kind of games. Now, like I've also said, we've been battered left and right by the big team. So maybe that's not always the case all the time.
Yeah.
But
so we look kind of better in principle, but don't manage to actually get results.
Yeah, that kind of feels like it. Yeah, but ultimately, no, I'm not super shocked by the stats. I think Liverpool, especially in the second half, they were chasing the game a lot, so they wanted to have a lot of the ball, and that was kind of part of our game plan. Am I surprised we created so many chances? Maybe. Liverpool didn't quite look themselves, but they were also, like you say, a slightly weakened side, especially in midfield, where we were actually stronger than we usually are because Lavia was fit for a change. Like a lot more shots, a lot more big chances, like you said. I think we did really well to nullify their biggest difference maker, which is Salah, obviously, and then we just kind of filled and plugged the gaps when we marked Salah, we created space for others, but then players like Caicedo and Lavia and Chalobah and Colwell were all sort of stepping out to plug the gaps and stepping in and stealing the ball and things like that. So yeah, I think it strikes me as it was a good tactical performance. Like it feels like it was this was the way we wanted to play the game. Like if we were going to plan the game to go as perfectly as we could probably make it go, it's how it would have gone today. Now, don't get me wrong as well. Liverpool were absolutely horrible because they did waste a lot of chances. Off the top of my head that I can remember, there was that free header that Salah had where it sort of bounced across goal and went out.
Darwin Núñez had a header as well, didn't he?
Yeah, should be there was quite a lot of times where the ball went wide or over the bar when they probably should have gotten it on target at least. And with Sanchez in goal, everything's a lottery. Yeah. So it's a bit about riding your luck. It is about riding your luck.
You're right. But maybe it's just me. And FOTMob only gave him a 6.4. I was actually really, really happy with Robert Sanchez today. I thought
he was fine. He didn't do anything wrong today.
No, exactly. He didn't do anything wrong, but especially early, even before we scored, which tells you it was very early because our goal was in the 4th minute. He collected a cross. I can't remember. It was from the right. I'm not sure if it was Salah or if it was Trent or one of Liverpool put a cross in from the right, through the 6-yard box, and he just caught it so well. I was like, "Ooh, we might be in for a good day here." If Sanchez is able to hold on to a ball like that, it's already looking good. And he did that 2 or 3 times in a game where Liverpool played those dangerous, whizzing it across the 6-yard box, the danger channel. And he just jumped on it and collected it. I'm like, this is what I want my goalkeeper to do all the time. I'm one of these people. I cry about this every time. And even people that are goalies tell me, yeah, it's not that easy. I'm like, I know it's not that easy, but that's the whole point of why we're big football clubs. I should have the goalies that can do those things. It's what I think anyway. But yeah, I think Sanchez did a good job today. Made a couple of decent saves. It only says 1 here, but let me look at how many. He had 1 high claim. I mean, 7 recoveries, I suppose. Honestly, it looked less than what it felt like to me watching it. I guess that's always the difference between, I guess people like to call it eye test and what's the word? Stats. But I guess, and we'll talk about, Noni and Neto. We'll also get into Palmer and Jackson. But I want to touch on the defenders for a minute as well. I thought all 3, I'm kind of including Caicedo as more of one of the midfielders, or he is one of the midfielders. But all 3 of the centre-backs, let's say, all 3 of them were brilliant. I thought all 3 of them had absolutely brilliant moments. Chalobah, that one kind of slide tackle moment with Darwin Núñez where he held his own and made sure the guy didn't didn't get his goal in that moment. Colwill had a couple of super good blocks and interceptions, and I'm not sure if you'd call it a recovery, but also you mentioned it a minute ago, stepping out and stealing the ball on the front foot was really good. Yeah. And Cucurella, I mean, we touched on it. He really had Salah on lock today. I mean, that
was his job today. His job today was stop Salah, and that's not an easy job, and he did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's as much as we always cry about we need to score more goals, and we're not clinical enough, and we're not having the worst defensive season. It's more like that we choose the wrong moments when to concede a silly goal. Like it's we didn't concede that many throughout the season. Like we have maybe like the 4th best defensive record. It's just that we too often fail to score a second and then conceded a silly 1-1 equalizer, for example. But today, and even though they did get one towards the end, it felt like the defensive stability was the basis for it. And on the one hand, while I enjoy being a possession-based team and a front foot team and an attacking team, I think starting to feel that I can trust our defense is one of the biggest things moving forward for the reaction from the crowd, for how the team plays. Like how confident a midfielder, a winger is going to be at trying something if they feel more secure from the back. And the fact that Liverpool, as much as you mentioned a few of the chances that they had, honestly, I'm slightly surprised that he didn't have more than 1.17 XG in total. From open play, they only had 0.7 because they had 0.4 from corners. Obviously, their one goal coming from a corner, and Van Dijk having another header from a corner as well. On both occasions, unfortunately, Madueke falling asleep and losing him. You can argue, why is Madueke the guy on Van Dijk? Is it zonal marking and they purposely put Van Dijk in Madueke's zone? Maybe it's that way around rather than the other way around. There's a few ways of looking at that. But the fact that Liverpool have had, so much set piece XG and, under 1 in open play tells you that we had a really good game defensively. And I mean, we've been very critical of including Levi Colwill. I mean, to be honest, Cucurella a lot less so. And Chalobah does what Chalobah does. Towards the end of the season, when it comes to crunch time, Chalobah all of a sudden plays like he's prime Ricardo Carvalho every week. I don't know how he does this, but I swear the last 4 seasons, 3 of them, this has happened this way, no?
Yeah, every winter we thaw out Chalobah, and then he's just about ready for sort of February, March, April, when the business end of the season needs to play sort of like 5-6 good games in a row. That's what he does.
Absolutely, that is what he does. And I mean, a lot of the chat I've tried to start talking about him. Moises Caicedo, I think it's about time we mention him as well. My God, Lucas says, and Moy, King Caicedo, this guy's just phenomenal. David says, what a game for Caicedo, guy's a monster. I mean, wow, he was so bloody good today. K-Star Gaming as well. Caicedo was immense. What did I see a minute ago? Where was it? Oh, yeah, David said the DM creating a penalty at the end of the game against the champions. What a game. Now, to be fair, because of the sub of Reece James coming on for Enzo, Caicedo was actually higher at the end and not fully the DM anymore. But I still, and Gusto, but still it allowed Caicedo to be a bit higher because Reece was there by that point. Although I say that, Reece was out on the wing, so maybe it didn't even make a difference. But somehow Caicedo turned up in Liverpool's box, nicking the ball ahead of Quansah, getting fouled, but he was flying in like Superman. The timing on that was absolutely unbelievable. Honestly, now, Ollie, it's nice that we're finally having a day again where we can talk about so many positives. Sometimes I feel a little bit when I have these games, it's like, okay, for once it worked. And then, like, we just lose ourselves in hype and happiness. And it's 100% right. But I'm like, Caicedo is the one and only where I'm like, this isn't hype. This isn't like we had a good game. And, now we need to be talking about Caicedo. Caicedo has stats like this nearly every game. 5 clearances, 5 recoveries, 7 duels won, most in the game. Complete a dribble, the interception for the penalty, 1 out of 1 long balls. And all of that while inverting from right back into midfield, and while Lavia next to him had a great game, and while Enzo Fernandez ahead of them had a great game too. My God, Caicedo is a joke. Caicedo is an absolute joke.
Bro, he's ridiculous. He's absolutely unreal. He's a total freak. I don't understand how he is as good as he is. Like the way he just clears everything up in midfield, and like he almost never gets himself booked anymore. Like, in terms of like, he does get the occasional booking and he does give away some fouls, but I don't think he's. I can't remember the last time he made like a rash challenge that you went, ooh, that looked bad. And his judgment is perfect. His timing is perfect. His passing is incredible. Like the range of his passing is crazy good. his energy is really strong. Like you say, to be able to like get all the way up and down the pitch at the end of the game to win a penalty is absolutely insanity. And you know what? I'm seeing it more and more. He's fighting for the badge. I see him in a lot of the games. Makes a big tackle against someone and then screams at them on the ground. He's pumping his chest out. He's feeling himself. And, he's playing with a lot of confidence right now, and he's right to, because my God, he's a freak. And there's nothing really else you can say except we spent a lot of money on him, and it was 100% worth it.
Oh yes, oh yes, it was 100% worth it. That's for flipping sure. I mean, it still kind of annoys me to an extent where I'm like, we could have just had him for 25 million less if we just bid that 25 million less, but 10 million more than we wanted to, like about 3 weeks earlier. But at the end of the day, whether it costs 115 million, 90 million, 100 million, or 95 million, it doesn't really matter. When you're playing like that, when you're doing it as the single DM, when you're doing it as part of double pivot, when you're doing it inverted from right back, when you're doing it in those a couple of occasions where he's been the wide centre mid in a diamond midfield, he's a joke. Like And what I'm most impressed about is his physicalness. I don't want to say his physique because he doesn't look that impressive. But when you see him in tackles against anybody, it's crazy how like he's not the biggest guy. I'm not saying he's small. He's probably like what 5'10", 5'11", I think, something like that. I would guess. Maybe
he's not even 6. He's not even 6 foot. Which to be like a physical presence isn't like it's not required, but it does help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think there was one tackle against Gakpo today, and I was like, my God, how did he send Gakpo flying like that? With just he bet even felt like he leant into it. And my God, I am very, very impressed. Solo Dolo says, facts, Caicedo always play genius when the rest slack. I mean, it's true. Thankfully today the rest didn't slack, but yes, Caicedo and his flowers. And like Solo Dolo says, Caicedo hasn't even entered his prime yet. Caicedo is worth more money in the Saudi leagues. What? I'm not sure about that last sentence, but there you go.
I think he means than the Saudi leagues. It's worth more money.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. Even all of the Saudi clubs together can't afford it. That would be kind of funny. There you go. I mean, we mentioned Caicedo. I think I also want to talk about Enzo Fernandez, though. Obviously, he got that first goal. And you mentioned it for Caicedo in terms of playing for the badge. I'm really impressed by how much of a leader Enzo Fernandez is becoming. He seems to me to have the most out of anyone in the squad. Now, I'm not saying like I don't want to fully take away from people like Colwell and Chalobah and maybe even Cucurella in a different way. And like I said, or like you just mentioned already, obviously. But he is more so normal like normal is the wrong way. But like the way we've learned and we've gotten used to captains being like captains that are good captains. Like that's how he acts. He comes up with big goals, make sure, he shouts at his teammates when he needs to, but you'll never find Enzo Fernandez. You'll never see it. Maybe in the early Potter days or last season when he had his what was the injury he had? What's it called again? Hernia. When he had his hernia, and you could sometimes see him, Enzo isn't making it there. The one thing you cannot say about Enzo or Caicedo is you will never concede a goal because Enzo couldn't be bothered to run. Like as much as I love Noni and Noni did a good game today, the way he fell asleep twice to lose Van Dijk on a corner, that can't happen. And those like I saw Enzo Fernandez win a header against Quansah, even though Quansah was literally rugby tackling him, and somehow it was still Enzo that got his head on the ball. I have no idea how he possibly made that happen, but the most impressive thing is how much he started to come up with big goals. And Blue Boy Ultra says 9 goals in the Prem. I think he's in total, I think maybe at 29 goals and assists for club and country this season, which is kind of insane, to be honest. Like I know he's kind of playing as a number 10.
But it's like 22 for us, like, in like across all competitions this season, it's not really, like, I know you say it's a number 10, but he's in a lot of different zones and he's getting a lot of goals and assists. So it was the one criticism I had a bit of Enzo Fernandez when he first arrived, is that a lot of the things he did looked very pretty, but didn't really lead to much, whether it was, goals or assists. And I was thinking, well, for 100 million, you probably need to be seeing a bit more in terms of that. And now, not only are we seeing that from Caicedo as well, but we're seeing it from Enzo in a big way. And it's making a big difference, especially in this second half of the season. He's probably been, he's arguably one of, if not our best player in the second half of the season. Caicedo probably the most, but but Enzo's certainly up there. It's like you say,
them two and Cucurella are the only ones.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. And like the passion with Enzo makes a really big difference. You can see he cares. You can see he's fighting for the club. You can see he's fighting for the badge. And yeah, it just you know what he yeah, exactly. That's what it feels like. He's got the mentality. Exactly that where he's pointing at his own head, you know, like he knows that he knows what's expected of him, and it's nice actually because it's you know, of course he's won the World Cup and things like that, you know, one young player of the tournament during that. And it feels like now he's kind of now growing into that leadership role for the big occasion. And you know, we saw that in a big way today, but we've seen it a lot throughout the season, not just today.
Absolutely. And you know, I don't want to sit here and criticize Noni because I actually thought Noni had a good game. He just had 3 or 4 bad moments in the game. He had that moment only a couple of minutes after we actually made it 1-0 already. If Noni in that moment plays through Enzo might get a brace in the first 6 minutes of the game. Like he literally might have been 1-on-1 with the keeper. It was very impressive. And I want to quickly touch on the goal. Like obviously the finish was great, very calm, very composed. But the touch with his left foot to control the cutback from Neto, I don't know, man. Like people will probably say it's easy, and you know he's £100 million player, so obviously he should control it, and that's true.
But he's running at speed, and the ball's going quickly.
Control that kind of pass on the weak foot to control it left foot to shoot straight away with the right foot. That's a good goal, man.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you know, and it's not a slow ball either from Neto. It's fizzed across the box and he's running onto it. You know, like he's not standing still either. So it's, you know, it's very impressive from that. And the finish is just sublime as well. Like really takes his time, really composed. It was nice to see it actually, because so many times again, like you see people mess that up, but you also see people, you know, like get the ball in that position. They've done the hard part and then they don't relax and they sky the ball, or they, you know, they kick it wide or whatever.
Like Neto quite late in the game. Do you remember when he all of a sudden rushed it and laced it for absolutely no reason in that moment?
Yeah, it didn't need to. Whereas like you can see Enzo's just got that little bit more composure about him. And that's indicative of a player who's playing with a lot of confidence right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Now, Max says, crowd was great. We couldn't hear the Liverpool fans. Now, I'm glad to hear that, Max. That sounds like you were at the game. On TV, it didn't come across that way unless Ollie had somehow a different, I don't know, audio line being in England than maybe I have outside of England. I would be surprised, but maybe. But I mean, it's good to hear that at least you from inside the ground got that feeling, because then I hope the players got that feeling as well, because it's very important. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, everybody tuning in, hit that like button right now for me. That'd be massively appreciated. Let's get to at least 50 likes as soon as we possibly can. And also, subscribe if you haven't done that yet. That would be massively appreciated. It really would. But yeah, I think we've glazed over our midfielders enough. I think we need to come to the one and only kind of person that we maybe have to criticize a little bit today. Is unfortunately Nicholas Jackson. Lucas said it very, very early. Not to be negative here, but want to say quickly, wasn't impressed with Jackson today. I don't think anyone was impressed with Jackson today. He did not have a good day, did he? I mean,
no, not a good game from him.
Constantly wrong decisions, left, right, and centre. It wasn't his day, which is weird because he scored a great goal against Everton, and then he scored those 2 goals off the bench. Obviously in a Conference League, the first one obviously being lucky as much as he, you know, worked hard to still pounce on it. But the second finish really made me like think Jackson's back now. And then I watched this game and I was like, oh no, how's this happening? How like he felt
Jackson's
like Morata today.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Today. Like, is it? It's when you see one game like this after he scored 2, and especially one very good goal the other day and last week, is it like, oh, you know, like someone in the chat just said, oh, we need to find a replacement for Jackson? Or is it just like, well, he had a bad game, but he had a really good game last week, won us the game, and he had a good game in midweek as well. Let's not cry about it too much, but especially that offside where he was wide on the wing. That really pissed me off, because I'm like, if you're in the middle, I can kind of see you're not sure who's behind you and stuff. It can happen to be offside when you kind of misjudged it. It happens, right? Or like when you're making a run and you're hoping for the ball to come a bit sooner, you don't have time to slow your run anymore and still be onside. I get it, it happens. But when you're fully out wide, literally like a winger, and you see across the line where all the defenders are,
the whole way down.
And it's not like he had a man on him that he needed to be very close to the line to, like, you know, get that advantage. He had like a good bit of space. Even if you're like waiting a meter, a yard behind the line, you're still going to have plenty of time and space to receive the ball there. But yeah, so that was frustrating. But I mean, honestly, if we win 3-1 and Jackson has a bad game, I'll take it. I think some people sometimes pretend like Drogba or Costa or any striker are amazing every game. Like even Erling Haaland, like they're not amazing every game. I'm not saying Nicholas Jackson is anywhere near any of those guys, But one bad game after 2 good games, I don't think people should be talking about we need to replace him for Jackson. He is terrible. He will never be good enough. I think it's a bit too, how do I call it? Reactionary, maybe?
Too soon, maybe.
Yeah, all
see, I have a slightly different view. I'll see what you think about this. So I agree that I don't think Jackson had a great game today. Like you said, offside constantly drove me absolutely mental. I was screaming in our group chat that he was offside all the time. Yeah, and just wrong decisions. Wrong decisions like that one where he had it on the left and he shot instead of passing it to Neto when he was free. Which was really irritating. Just a few moments like that. Again, in the way that everyone else looked really confident today, he looks really unconfident today. Like it was weird because especially after getting a couple goals and things like against Jurgarden, got one against Everton as well. You would expect, that sort of like goals for strikers are the confidence builder. That's what sort of comes back. And he almost looked a bit like he was trying too hard today at times to score a goal and really like sort of cement that idea. That he was back, and I don't know, maybe he just got in his own head a little bit, but but I think it says a lot that we ended up we took him off in the end and put Neto up front, and we didn't really look any different in terms of like more or less effective with or without him there. Poor game from him today. But here's where my view not super differs from yours, but maybe differs a bit. Some people will be saying like, from this game we should sell him, and that's wrong and it's reactionary. But at the same time, he had all of last season, which was good, and people went, he deserves another season, right? And he's had most of this season, despite getting an injury, right? He's had a lot of this season, or over half. And maybe he's not been quite as good. And so I guess the question that I would be asking is, do we give him another season? Do you go round a third time? Or, do you hit something in the middle where you have him as a striker and you get a better striker in or an equivalent striker, a different profile, so that it's not all on him all the time?
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, it's more like people are saying like this has to change him being just the only person we have. Whether people mean whether he should go or whether someone should come in to, assist him, that differs from person to person. People have their opinions on Jackson. But for me, it's not like I'm not sure I can back Jackson to the hilt all the way because I've not seen enough progression on this season from last season yet.
Yeah, it's tricky. But then I see comments like this from Jonas, and he says, I can't believe people still defend Jackson. He's not a Premier League level striker, a winger maybe, but not a striker. I don't want to be mean and rude, right? But we just spoke about that offside thing. Now, offside in the middle, again, is one thing. He can't even stay onside wide. My guy is not a winger. My guy is maybe a winger if we play like peak Jose 2016 ball, right? Maybe. Peak Jose or peak, I don't know.
Or pre-VAR.
The most counter-attacker manager you can think of. Maybe then you can think of Jackson being a winger. In a normal system that plays with the ball and in a team that has more money and better players than most other teams, where most of the teams will defend, you do not want Jackson on the wing. I think that's absolute ridiculous, if I'm being honest. But to say he's not a Premier League level striker, it's just like, are you a supporter? Are you a Chelsea hater? What do you mean not a Premier League level striker? My guy scored over 10 goals in back-to-back season. What do you mean he's not a Premier League level striker? That's ridiculous. I mean,
yeah. Do you know what it is? I think it just feels like it feels like you can't always rely on Jackson, and maybe that's why some people are saying, well, if you can't rely on him, maybe we should just get rid and do something different. But I don't know. I'm more of the opinion that he needs help rather than he needs replacing. So I don't know. I whether that's a Delap or a Gyökeres or an Isak or a Osimhen or whoever. I don't care who everyone's flavour of the month striker is to play alongside him. But I think we need someone because at the moment our depth is Gu, who is injured, but promising when he played, but injured and won't be anywhere near as good as any of the targets we're looking at. Neto, who's not a striker, and occasionally Tyreek George, who's also not a striker, or Nkunku, who is leaving. So like the depth by itself isn't really great either. And I think again that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about like I think he's got a lot on his shoulders being the Chelsea striker by himself more or less. And
yeah,
I think people need to take consideration of that more. I think do great strikers score every week? A lot of them do. Do good strikers score a lot of weeks and have off weeks? Yeah, most of them do.
Literally, like we always talk about Diego Costa. Diego Costa's never scored more than 20 goals. Now, I know Jackson is miles off 20 goals, but 20 goals out of a 38-game league season, and that isn't one a game. That is like, sometimes a brace, maybe once a hat-trick. So that means over half of the games, Diego Costa didn't score in a season,
Yeah.
and he still got 20 goals. Like, and I'm seeing people like JC said, Tammy also scored 15 goals. Yeah. And he's also a Premier League level striker. And Lukaku is very clearly, he's a dickhead, but clearly a Premier League level striker, So I don't understand this comparison. If anything, that is like, okay, so he's done better than a lot of other players did in the meantime. It's like, but I agree with you, by the way. And to an extent, I agree with JC. He's also saying, I'm not saying we should sell him, but if we go into another season with him as the first choice striker, we ain't winning big. Now, first of all, I want to say we ain't winning big next season regardless, because if we make Champions League, and this now looks a whole lot more possible than it did a couple of weeks ago before the wins against Fulham, Everton, and now Liverpool, which absolutely no chance. I thought we'd win all these 3 games in a row, by the way, so absolutely buzzing with that. But the fact that we'll be in the Champions League and have the squad depth not really to be able to deal with barely Conference League and Premier League, let alone Champions League, I think next season is another season where we need to just make Champions League qualification, and then the year after is where we go for trophies. Now, I'm not saying we can't go for the FA Cup or can't go for, however the Champions League run goes, depending on how the draw favors us or doesn't. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm still like, for me, and I kind of agree with what you said, Ollie, I'm not saying Jackson should be the only striker. I think that in and of itself is and was ridiculous. And I think the fact that we didn't add to that in January is stupid. For me, there's just 2 things we should be doing. One of 2. One is either get someone like Giroud, like we used to have, like an experienced, slightly more older player who will not cry if he doesn't play every game because he's more towards the end of his career, but provides a different profile, a bit of a box present, good in the air, good from set pieces, good for a late goal. In an ideal world, you'd get that. Now, 2 problems.
What you're telling me, Loz, is you want to buy Chris Wood.
To be honest, exactly that. Because I was just going to say 2 problems with that is, number 1, our owners will never ever sanction such a signing, in my opinion, and number 2, there's very few available of those ilk, except maybe Chris Wood. But my other option for me is, I don't think we should be going for a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, and it seems like we're not doing that anyway, because I don't think there's any point in, when you buy a player like Jackson, and we've signed a whole squad relatively like Jackson, where we sign young players who have showed potential, and then you bring them in and you bank on them. But if you do that, and then you sign Jackson at 21, and he's now 23, scored more than 10 goals in back-to-back seasons, is a clear difference compared to when he does play and when he doesn't play, compared to how well it's doing. And you're like, if you then decide a player isn't good enough by the time they're 23, you've not understood the whole concept of human evolution. Like, you're not at peak ability of yourself by 23. So if you're not giving a player 225, if you sign him at 21, stop signing 21-year-olds. Because there is no point in doing that. Look at Ousmane Dembele, what he's doing at PSG now. He wasn't doing that at 23, was he? And I'm not saying we need to now sit here with Jackson as our first choice striker until he's 27. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying don't buy someone that makes him the clear number 2. Because if you do that, he will leave. And then it was all a bit of a waste. So for me, that's why I'd be happy if we signed Liam Delap, because for me, Liam Delap and Jackson can very much compete. I think if you sign Delap, you still start the season with Jackson as your first choice, and then you see how the season goes. One will play more in the week, one will play more on the weekend, and then you just see whoever is, just in better form, and that's the guy who gets the nod. I think that would be the best scenario for us.
Let them compete, and the cream rises to the top. I certainly see that argument, and I get. And that's the only question I really have is that same question of, like, how much more time do we really give Jackson before he needs to either get good or get gone? Like, he's already good, but like, is he good enough to be able to lead the line for us consistently for years? Not yet. Could he be? Maybe. So we just need to, like, I don't know. Maybe that does mean he needs 1 more season at least to just see where he's going to be at, if we're going to see some progression from him or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there was certainly parts in the season where you did see progression compared to the year before. Maybe some other games you don't see it, but that's part of the game of progress. Progress is not a linear graph. Progress is very often 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, 3 steps forwards, 2 steps back. Sometimes even 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Do you know what I mean? Get Harry Kane. I mean, Harry Kane will not come to Chelsea. And also, Chelsea will not be paying his wages. So no matter what David Ornstein will try to tell you, that we're looking at these serious players and older players as well, impact players. Yeah, it's not going to happen, is it? There you go. What's the point of having two unproven strikers, mate? We have an unproven team. That's the concept of the football club. Of course, I agree in principle that I would like more high-profile players that have a bit more experience, a bit more, maybe more suited to handling pressure and stuff.
But we have a sunk cost now, and if we have to go and replace our whole team with better players, it would be a total waste of time. Basically,
exactly that. And like I say, like I
would be
happy to do that.
Yeah,
say that again. Sorry.
Like maybe that would be worth it if we were really struggling, but I don't know. It depends on whether you see the signs of progression or not, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but absolutely. I tell you what, even that won't be imagined. Even say if we got the best players, that we could get, like the Chelsea of old used to do, right? For next season, I don't think that guarantees us anything necessarily.
No, it doesn't guarantee us anything. And JC, I am slightly concerned about you. Do you suffer from schizophrenia? What do you mean? A second ago, you were telling me Jackson isn't good enough for the Premier League, and we need to. No, to be fair, you said not get rid of him, but make him second choice, essentially. And now you're saying you're taking him over Isak,
who is the best striker in the league, probably this season.
I will be honest. At the beginning of the season, I said I'd take Jackson over Isak. Does part of me still believe that in terms of in 4 years, which is the amount of years I think that Jackson is younger than Isak? Will Jackson be better than Isak is today? I actually think he might be. So I think in terms of pure ability, talent, I think he might ever so slightly be better. Like Isak was not doing the things Jackson is doing at Chelsea when he was 21, 22, 23.
That's what I'm saying. What was he at Villarreal or Sociedad or wherever he was?
Yeah, Real Sociedad, exactly. Now, obviously, not every player's development is, again, linear. Like Mo Salah looked like he was barely good enough when he was at Chelsea and then became potentially the greatest right winger in Premier League history. That isn't always foreseeable. And I'm not saying Jackson will take the same development as Isak has, but I'm purely speaking from principle at the start of the season. That's what I was feeling. If Jackson can get his finishing right, I think the other stuff, he's not far off. Very not far off Alexander Isak, in my opinion, at least. Now, Ollie, I want to look at a couple of quotes from after the game. And one of them is Bayern. Well, a couple of them are Bayern about Cole Palmer. The first one is he says, Palmer on his goal drought. Shit happens. You know what I mean? Like, the most typical Cole Palmer response you can think
of. I miss Palmer. I missed him.
Exactly. I missed him being interviewed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's nice. It's nice to see his particular brand of of straightforward. He's the median nightmare, isn't he?
Yeah, nightmare and sweetheart. I guess both at the same time, a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe like Cole Palmer. Is he the new Jeremy Clarkson? No, he's not. But yeah, Cole Palmer. He also said social media nowadays is full of idiots, trolls, and that. I don't listen to them. Good. I'm glad he doesn't. And he also says, I think Caicedo's been our best player from the start of the season. He's a machine, and boy, is he a machine. But bro, how big was? I know it was only a penalty. But how big was Cole Palmer getting that goal? And we forget, for so long he had that perfect penalty record, right? But then he did miss that one against Leicester, at this point, nearly 2 months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think him scoring that today, finishing that game off, not like leaving the chance for a last-second equalizer from Liverpool, was so big. And I know it's only a penalty, but I still think it will do it big for him. But I want to say also, Cole Palmer also in general played better today than he did in other games. His involvement in the first goal that we scored, his involvement in the own goal that Liverpool scored where Van Dijk punted against Quansah, and it goes in from him. That was all set up by Cole Palmer when he hit the inside of the post when he tried to essentially score from the byline. Not quite sure how he thought that would ever go in when he's using the inside of his boot. If he did like a Quaresma and used the outside of his boot, I get it.
Yeah, but... might have done it. It's a shame. It was very, very close. That wasn't it? I thought.
Do you reckon he meant to hit the post and hoped it would hit a player to tap it in? Do you think that was his aim? Because I can't imagine he tried to score. How would it go in with the inside of his foot?
I don't know. I think it just looked like Alisson was probably like a yard off his line and maybe just like enough. And there was just enough of a gap there for Palmer. I don't think he thought too much about it. Let's be honest. I thought generally he was a lot better today. I thought the goal was really for him was the icing on the cake. It what was a much better performance that I've seen from him in a while, in probably a few months now, 3 or 4 months. Don't know what had been bothering him up until today, but he looked like a totally different player today. To the player he's been in the last few months. He was taking risks. He was working hard. I mean, he always worked hard, but he had grown this sort of penchant for playing it a bit safer. Beating a man. Turning around, passing the ball back, 5-yard pass, 10-yard passes here and there. Occasionally would try some stealing and would shoot on sight and not really get anywhere. And today he looked like he had his composure back. Like he was. In his confidence, he was driving at people. He was always trying to, like make things happen, weaving in and out. He was in his main position that he performs well in, which is sort of that right half space a lot of the time, like on the right edge of the penalty area, which I think is his best spot. And I think his confidence there, helped him. He had a good shot that was saved against Alisson late in the game. He had that shot, like you said, that came off the post. Was unfortunate not to score that. But other than that as well, like did a lot of like really nice little tricks, flicks, runs, nice passes. There was that one pass, I think it was either to Noni or Jackson, I can't remember, but he barely even looked where he was passing it. And he weighted it perfectly in behind the defender. That's the Palmer we know. The Palmer that's changing games and making a difference. And they just couldn't handle him today. And it was really, really nice to see that from a player who has sort of not dropped off. Well, he has dropped off a little bit, sort of in form this season. I mean, he's always been okay, but he hasn't been affecting games as much. And today, he really made a difference, and he got man of the match for his trouble. Not only did that, he ended his goal drought. He got the cobwebs out with his penalty. So he's not thinking about when he gets his next one, he's not thinking about I've missed one. And on top of that, Liverpool, I think, were the only team in the league that he hasn't scored against. So,
really? Okay.
I think that might be, so like he also kind of completes the set there. So I think for him all around, it's
against Ipswich, I think, but it might be
not
because they count as relegated now, maybe.
I think it was going into this season. I guess he had the chance, but now maybe not. But it was after last season, Liverpool were the only team he hadn't scored.
Yeah, there you go. And then I think so now it might be Ipswich the only one because he has now scored against Liverpool.
I mean, he's not going to get a chance.
Southampton and Leicester, to be honest, but he might have done.
I can't remember. But he's not going to get a chance now because they're probably not going to come back up again. But so I thought for him overall to get man of the match, get his goal, end his goal drought, all of that, play well. It's really nice to see that. It was a really satisfying performance if you're a fan of Cole Palmer.
Absolutely. And another thing here, first of all, by the way, Karan said Palmer was emotional. Obviously, me and Ollie haven't been able to watch any post-match interviews or press conferences because we came straight on here. We will be watching those later. Someone in the chat said it earlier, it was actually JC. Also, Palmer is now in our all-time top 10 Chelsea goal scorers, and you can see the list on screen posted by Chelsea.
He's been here for 2 seasons. That's insanity.
He's had 67 games. He's less than half? No, to be fair, Diego Costa is only on 89 as well, and still has 15 more than Palmer has. But now how do you feel about that? Because on the one hand, this is obviously for Palmer very impressive. On the other hand, I'm like, we don't have a lot of top goal scorers, do we?
No, the fact John Terry's on there is a bit mental, even in of itself.
Exactly. John Terry's on there, and Cole Palmer after less than 2 seasons is too.
Of course,
we need to fix up our goal scoring record.
But this here is what it tells you about Chelsea strikers for sure. And of course this is Premier League goal scorers as well. Like in terms of the whole competition, we had like Bobby Tambling and Peter Osgood and some of these guys back in the day who were absolute monsters as well. But in the Premier League era, this is it's quite a shock. But do you know what it says to me? It says Cole Palmer might one day be able to get to the top of that list if he plays for long enough for us.
Well, I'm not sure about the top, but maybe above Drogba, he could get 100.
I mean, just trying to think, like he's got he's had 2 seasons already. He's got 37 goals in the Premier League. What if he plays 10? Where is he at then? Say he plays 10 seasons for us in total. He'll be up there, won't he? Like it's just numbers.
Do you see him playing 10 seasons for us?
I don't know, man. Like probably if he plays, like a few more the way he played his first season for us in total, he'll get pinched by someone in the end, probably Real Madrid. But But then
Does he
again,
want
he's
to go to Real Madrid? I don't know if Palmer does.
I don't know. He's on a prison contract though, so that's the good thing for us. You know, he's on a prison sentence contract. He's here until 2032, so he's, I think, also. So we've got like another 6-7 years of him, regardless.
Exactly, and chances are in that contract we have a couple of clauses for 1-2 year extensions in there as well that we could just randomly trigger at random moments. Like Echnako says, he'll easily end up in the top 3 if he stays his contract length. I agree, top 3. I do agree with that. It would be crazy if he got ahead of Hazard, wouldn't it?
How mad is it though that yeah, like he could is the thing. Like he's just under halfway there, and he's over
literally.
halfway to Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's record. So you know, like it's I have no reason to believe, especially like a player of his age, because he's still young. He's going to be 23 soon, I think, if he's not 23 already. So like,
was it maybe his birthday either today or like this week or something? Am I
something
making
like
it up?
that. Like yeah, it's around now, but he's around 23 now, and like. You know, like he's got a lot of growing.
On Tuesday, he turns 23.
Yeah, he's got a lot. He's got a lot of growing and a lot of like advancing in his career and a lot of progression to make. God knows where he'll be. You know, in 5-10 years time. Not just
absolutely.
in terms of like
I hope he
club, but like also in his ability as well.
Exactly. Obviously, I hope he stays for as long as possible. Obviously, there's a lot of the English media that always try to create this story that Palmer wants to go to Man United. I'm really not sure. Look at Man United. I don't think anybody really wants to go there, other than Mateus Cunha somehow. But you know, that's a whole separate story. But Enzo Maresca, I quickly want to talk about him. Blue Boy Ultra put this in the chat earlier as well. Maresca deserves his flowers today. Where's the haters? Presumably now. I myself am not an Enzo Maresca hater. It's not like I'm a fanboy either. You know, there's a few people that overdo it, in my opinion, with quite the love. But where do you stand on things like today? Was that his first big statement win? Is the fact that Liverpool were kind of, you know, reigning champions on the piss up, does that make it not a statement win? Or is it still a statement win? By the way, also just one other thing. Liverpool this season didn't lose a single game by more than 1 goal. This is the only game they've won by 2 goals or more this season, so that's also something. Now I know it was a 95th minute penalty, I get that, but even still, it's I don't know, man. Like I don't like to change my tune on a manager or make a decision on a manager based on individual games, because I think if you're doing that, you're not grasping what really a manager does. But statement wins are still important for the faith of the team, of the faith of the fans, of the faith of the. You know, the whole club, I guess, it is quite big that, you know, next season when we go into games like this, when we go to Newcastle, when we go to Man United or play against Man United at the Bridge, because of this win, we will be more confident now. So, like, these wins matter. Like, is it his first big statement win for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there is something to be said about Liverpool being on the piss, you know, but you can only play what's in front of you, and we did have to beat them. You know, are we fortunate they managed to win the title before they played us? Yeah, I suppose we are. But like I said, you can only play what's in front of you. We had to set up to win the game, and we did win the game, and quite emphatically too. It's not like this was a performance where you could sort of say, "Oh yeah, it was okay, and we did enough to win," and that, you know, but it still wasn't super convincing. No, like we won today, and we won handedly. We deserved to win. The performance was good. The tactics were good. The changes were good. Everything was good. The game management was good. You know, everyone seemed like they were playing on the same page. Does that happen if Liverpool haven't won the league yet and they're still pushing for the title? Maybe, maybe not.
If they needed the win today to win the league, there's no way this game goes this way. But
maybe not. But at the same time, I guess we'll never know. So you know, you can sort of talk about hypotheticals all you want, but at the end of the day, I think this is Enzo Maresca's best win for us. Whatever that means to you. I don't think that's super controversial.
No, I agree. Ricky also says this was Maresca's biggest win. I think it is a good sign if we make Champions League teams will not just sit back and defend, which will favour us. I think you're slightly overestimating the quality of Champions League teams in the league phase, but sure. I think a lot of them will be parking the bus against us, but we'll see who we draw if we get there, obviously. Karan also says Liverpool had a strong team, and they did. Like, other than not starting Gravenberch, McAllister,
Robertson,
and Soboslai.
And Robertson.
Yeah, I guess Robertson, but obviously Robertson, there has been points where there's been an argument to be made that Tsimikas should be playing over him anyway, maybe, especially against really fast wingers like Neto today. Obviously, Quansah scoring an own goal, as much as he didn't know much about that, but also giving a penalty away, obviously. this was a stronger Liverpool team than when we played them in the Carabao Cup final. You know, I will say that. So we did get it over the line, and hey, I'm very, very happy.
And he does deserve his flowers for that, because I said when it went to 2-1, I said in the group chat, I said, we're going to bottle this now, because that, you know, because it felt like throughout the season we'd had a lot of experiences where where we just couldn't rely on ourselves to keep the goals out, you know. And I thought, you know, the momentum would swing Liverpool's way. You know, 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in football. It's cliche for a reason. But we managed to hold on, and that's as much on the players as it is on Enzo Maresca today. So maybe we just wanted it more, like you say. You know, if Liverpool were on the piss up, you know, they probably weren't that bothered whether they won or lost today in reality. But you know, I still think it's a statement win personally.
Absolutely. I do think it's a statement win. And whether it's the biggest statement win, I'm not saying we can't make any more bigger statement wins. For example, I think if we'd win at St. James's Park, with Newcastle still fighting for wins, that would be a bigger win. Now, in general, beating Liverpool is bigger than Newcastle, but because of the context, that would be bigger. Also, being away versus at home makes a difference. But I think as of today, even though I think the 3-0 against Villa shout is reasonable as well, when I look at the fact that Villa got slapped 4 and 5-0 by Palace at points this season, I'm not taking 3-0 over Villa as the best game. I can't lie. If you're getting slapped 5-0 by Palace, you're good, but you're not that good.
Palace are elite these days, man.
I mean, they are. They're almost like us, really. If they play against a team that parks the bus, they struggle. If they play against a team that's open, they kill them. So,
with their Austrian manager, Fabian Hurtler, your countryman, right? Or
Hurtler is the Brighton one, bro.
Oh yeah, no, it's Glasner, isn't it?
Yeah, Glasner, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, your countryman.
Yeah, my country. I like him a lot. You know, now when he was a footballer in Austria as well, and he was very disliked in Austria because he played for a team in a certain county in Austria and then retired, became their manager, promoted them from the second division to the Bundesliga, and then went as a manager to their biggest local rivals. And ever since then, everybody hated him. But then obviously he's done so well internationally now, everybody loves him now again. So that is how it goes in football, isn't it? Once you leave the country and work internationally, when you're not from a big nation like England or Spain or France or Germany or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Maresca, do you think this win changes anything with in particular, the match-going fans? Those people that have been heavily against him for weeks and months? Do you think it changes anything for that? Or does he need, let's say, a handful of wins like this to change anything with those people?
I think he needs a handful of wins like this, because I think you can easily say, what have you done for me lately? Right, in terms of wins, but also I think there's been enough of a drop-off at certain points in the season that I think people will need a bit more convincing. This is a really good start. But do you know what? The important thing for me is that we go on and actually make it count now. This win doesn't matter at all if we don't beat Man United. It doesn't matter at all if we don't beat Forest on the final day. It doesn't matter at all if we don't try and take some points off of Newcastle. So it looks great from the position that we're in now, and we didn't expect to be here, but now we actually have to capitalize on the gap we're creating for ourselves. And that's what's going to set apart, I think, whether the match-going fans are happy or not with him come the end of the season.
Absolutely. Now, someone said, and I'll try and take a look at this if this is true. Someone said in the chat earlier that we have today equal Poch's point record from last season.
I think that is true, isn't it?
It might be. Let me see. We finished on 63, and we are now on 63 with obviously 3 games to go. Now, 3 difficult games, mind you, so there's a chance we finish on 63, but I think we'll get to at least 65, is what I'll say. But I'm not actually sure if I fully agree with you. By the way, guys, obviously Newcastle drawing 1-1 to Brighton today. They actually got a late equalizer, so if they didn't, we would have actually already been ahead of them. But we are 1 point behind Man City. We are only 4 points behind Arsenal, which is kind of mental, who still play Newcastle and Liverpool as well.
Yeah, now, we've won
finished ahead of Arsenal.
We've won a similar amount of games to Arsenal this season, like literally maybe one less or the same. And they seem to have had a really good season, and we really haven't, for a lot of the season. So I don't know.
Sure why. There you go. If I click on here, it will show us the wins. We have now
Same
18
number of
wins, and they have 18 wins. We have the same amount of league wins this season, which is insane,
They've
really.
just churned out the draws where we haven't managed it, I guess. But yeah, it's like it's bizarre that we've won so many games this season, because it's felt like for a lot of the season that it's been quite negative. It like feels like it's been pretty rough, and it still might end up that way. But I don't know. I get the feeling now that we're hopefully looking to finish the season strong.
Exactly. Now, I'm curious because of what you said in terms of we need to beat Man United and we need to beat Forest. I think Forest especially, all we need to do is not lose, because we are
That's
3
true.
points ahead of Forest. To be fair, they have a game in hand, so they could join up with us again. But with their recent form,
We really just need to match their results. But it would be it wouldn't. I think we need ideally to be beating them. Really,
obviously in an ideal world. But I think if we beat Man United and don't lose either to Newcastle or Forest, we're fine. I think 4 more points from here is more.
You mean if we don't lose at all between now and the end of the season, we'll be
No,
all
I
right.
think we can't even lose one. I think we just need 4 points.
Yeah, it might be enough. I don't know.
Like 67. If we finish on the points that Arsenal have now, that has to be enough for top 5. Has to be.
This is the closest top 5 has this top 4, top 5, and with the extra Champions League spot, this is the closest this has been in so many years.
Yeah,
where
from second to 7th, it's 7 points. That's crazy.
That can actually still all change. Aston Villa could still technically go above Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, unlikely, but
it's unlikely,
absolutely.
Right? But but Arsenal would have to lose them all. Aston Villa would have to win them all, but it could happen. So, and at this stage of the season, that's pretty rare.
Very rare, very, very rare. It's super interesting because the Premier League. I think we have the issue. The Premier League doesn't have the best team at the moment. Now, obviously, Liverpool on a different day could have certainly gone through against PSG. Now, obviously, they were struggling in their away leg, but in the home leg, it could have certainly gone the other way as well. And they could easily be in the Champions League semi-final and potentially the final as well. I think they are good enough for that on their day, absolutely. I think at the very highest level, you have your Barcelonas. Now you have your PSGs, Real Madrid, obviously, when they're not bottle jobs like this season and just a mess and embarrassing themselves from all angles. Bayern Munich, obviously, Inter Milan. I think that the top Premier League teams are with them, but that we're not ahead of them. But where the Premier League is so far superior to all the other leagues is exactly here from, like, say, 3rd to 7th to 8th. Like, the top 1 or 2 or 3 from a few countries are, of course, elite. But after that, after you are talking 3rd, 4th, the level in the Premier League is so far higher. The fact that Man United, and I know obviously Man United, I know they're 15th, but obviously this is not a true reflection of their ability, in my opinion, still. But they slapped Bilbao. Now, I know, slightly controversial penalty and red card and stuff, and obviously 3-0 and a half, and the others are a man down.
We can all agree Spurs are shit, and they got to the final of the Europa League as well.
Yeah, exactly. Except Spurs didn't have to play any very good teams, but even then, Frankfurt are in the top 4 of the Bundesliga, and Spurs beat them. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know. It's just a shame. Yeah, it's nice, and it's nice that the Premier League is so competitive, and I guess it makes it interesting. But one, it has kind of ruined the football because there's so many good teams that too many games are even, and therefore there's less great games, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And also, you have the problem for a team like us. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's amazing if we make Champions League this season, but unfortunately, it's not like you would have felt like 4 or 5 years ago. If you're like, once you make it, then you get the Champions League money. It's almost like a bit of it gets the ball rolling, a bit like an avalanche or a big snowball.
You go up
once you get it, you get it, you have it. But because it's so tight, like I say, being in the Champions League and that double, of high-level double games every week, will also make next season's league campaign much more difficult than this season's been. Now, obviously, you in an ideal world will improve the squad. The players all get a year older; they should get better. But it will be more difficult to make Champions League again. So, yeah, it's really, really interesting. But would you say now you are fairly confident that we can make the top 5 from here on out? Again, like I said earlier, I did not expect us at all to beat Fulham, Everton, and Liverpool in a row. No chance. I thought that was happening.
I think it's in our hands. I think if
it quite mathematically is, yeah.
yeah, for sure. But like also in terms of like the opportunity, I think we haven't had the greatest season this season, and we do have a bit of a tough run into to finish up. But I think the game against Newcastle is going to be key. I think that's going to be really important. If we can get some points off them, I think we can almost guarantee it. I think we should be beating Man United out of principle, to be honest with you, because of how poor they've been this season. And they'll be focusing a lot on the Europa League and things like that. So I think it's really important for us to be beating them, because they're just a team we don't beat very often, and when we do, it's and this season offers a really good opportunity to do that. It will be one of the easiest games against. It want to be one of the easiest opportunities to beat Man United in years, and Forest are dropping away as well. So I think it's in our hands in terms of like context. The run in might not be quite as difficult as some might think. It's not easy, but yeah, I think if we play like we did today in the last 3 games of the season, I think we'll get it for sure. We might not lose, like any, so
Exactly.
But yeah, getting a point from that Newcastle game will be absolutely massive. It's really important.
Yes, it will be huge. Not losing that game. It's like one of those, some games are must win. That game is must not lose. To finish it off, guys, unfortunately, Ricky, we won't have time to cover this question. Maybe you'll be here next time. We'll cover it next time because I need to go pick up my mother from the train station in a minute. So just as the last comment, JC says, if we win a Conference League, City win the FA Cup, Liverpool win the league, and if United, I guess, or Spurs win the Europa League, it will be so funny how Arsenal still go trophyless while being the second best team in England. Now, and imagine they don't even finish second. Imagine they don't, but at the same time, we can't laugh too soon because they only lost 1-0 against PSG. They might also be in a Champions League final and somehow win the Champions League. Now, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but they only lost 1-0. It's not like it's not like that Bilbao and lost 3-0 and got battered. It's not quite there. But I believe in PSG. And by the way, never in my life did I think I would ever support PSG as much as I do against Arsenal. But there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up here. Please do check out all of Ollie's social media down below. Of course, his personal Twitter, Ollie J. Carpenter, as well as at the Bridge podcast, his podcast that he does with Mikey and the other guy who I never actually met because I was on the podcast once with Ollie and Mikey. So there you go. Check them out. Link is down in the description. Follow them. Of course, if you haven't already, check out mine and the CFCPys podcast called Chelsea Unfiltered. Link is down in the description on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to that as well. New episode will be out on Tuesday discussing our phenomenal win over Liverpool. And of course, our win over, what is that face again? Djurgården in the Conference League last Thursday as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in today. Hit the like button if you haven't done that yet. Subscribe if you haven't done that either. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. Upwards and onwards, and we will see you next time.